My name is Alfred Bielek, more commonly known as Al Bielek. I have been involved in the Philadelphia experiment, the Montauk project, time travel, alien connections at the Montauk project, and some other projects, all of which have been secret over the years, most of which have never been declassified, and involved many people. A principal among them was, of course, Nikola Tesla.
October 28, 1943. Was the date of one of the most significant scientific experiments in history, the so-called Philadelphia experiment. The goal was to make ships invisible to radar. But the result exceeded all expectations. Placed in a powerful electromagnetic field, the U.S. Navy destroyer, Eldridge, disappeared not only from the screens, but also from our reality. The ship materialized once again hundreds of miles from Philadelphia at the military base of Norfolk, Virginia, with a crazed crew on board. All records of the tragedy have been kept secret. But there was a rumor linking the experiment with the great inventor Nikola Tesla, who supposedly made all the necessary calculations and drawings and provided generators that were used for the teleportation of the Eldridge. There is some evidence that these fluxes in space and time can be artificially induced. This appears to have been the case with the Eldridge, which took part in the Philadelphia experiment on August 15, 1943. The brilliant inventor Nikola Tesla and the theoretician Albert Einstein are both reported to have been involved in this experiment. The object was to render the ship invisible by wrapping the hull in inch-thick cable through which a high-frequency signal from an elaborate system of generators and Tesla coils was induced. The awesome technology that was used on the 15th of August, 1943, was technology that had been in the makings under Dr. Nikola Tesla's guidance since the early 1930s. Having had much success, the technology eventually was placed in the hands of our U.S. government and overseen by the Naval Department for national security interests. By the time our government got involved, the possibilities of the technology had already been proven beyond a doubt of its abilities. In 1895, while conducting research with his step-up transformer, Nikola Tesla had his first indications that time and space could be influenced by using highly charged rotating magnetic fields. Part of this revelation came about from Tesla's experimentation with radio frequencies and the transmission of electrical energy through the atmosphere. Tesla's simple discovery would, years later, lead to the infamous Philadelphia experiment and the Montauk time travel projects. But even before these highly top-secret military programs came about, Tesla made some fascinating discoveries on the nature of time and the real possibilities of time travel with these experiments in high-voltage electricity and magnetic fields. Tesla discovered that time and space could be breached, or warped, creating a doorway that could lead to other time frames. But with this monumental discovery, Tesla also discovered, through personal experience, the very real dangers inherent with time travel. Tesla's first brush with time travel came in March 1895. A reporter for the New York Herald wrote on March 13 that he came across the inventor in a small cafe, looking shaken after being hit by 3.5 million volts. "I am afraid," said Tesla, "that you won't find me a pleasant companion tonight. The fact is I was almost killed today. The spark jumped 3 feet through the air and struck me here on the right shoulder. If my assistant had not turned off the current instantly, and might have been the end of me." Tesla, on contact with the resonating electromagnetic charge, found himself outside his time frame reference. He reported that he could see the immediate past, present and future, all at once, but he was paralyzed within the electromagnetic field. Unable to help himself, his assistant, by turning off the current, released Tesla before any permanent damage was done. A repeat of this very incident would occur years later during the Philadelphia experiment. Unfortunately, The sailors involved were left outside their time frame reference for too long with disastrous results. Tesla's secret time travel experiments would continue on in the hands of others who were not as concerned with humanity as Tesla. In the 1930s, Nikola Tesla got involved with a group which was experimenting with moving through the time-space continuum. In the early 1930s, the University of Chicago investigated the possibility of invisibility through the use of electricity. In 1939, this project was moved to Princeton's Institute of Advanced Studies. This is not far from Philadelphia. There they were able to make small objects invisible. They presented this technology to the government, the military, because we were at war, wanted to pursue it in a direction. Tesla had come to the same conclusion that Einstein did, that this technology, if developed, would not be used for the benefit of mankind. Dr. Albert Einstein was also involved, and to a greater degree than most know. In fact, it was his special theory of relativity, which became the theoretical cornerstone describing the release of nuclear energy, and concerns itself with relationships between energy, time, matter, and the speed of light. In his proposed general theory of relativity, he suggested that the universe is four-dimensional, the three dimensions of space, length, depth and breadth, plus time, but space, instead of being flat as he had suggested in his special theory, was now curved, and that gravity was a consequence of his proposed space curvature. You see, Einstein's general theory was so astoundingly successful that scientists worldwide rapidly accepted it, and who in turn, after re-evaluation, took their experimentation into the new direction in which Einstein had pointed. In short, Einstein vectored mankind onto a new timeline. His theories made it possible for the warping, bending or the morphing of time, black holes, traveling through time, and yes, even UFOs. Einstein was also convinced that there was a link between the laws of electromagnetism and gravity, and that it could be expressed in a mathematical formula, known as the unified field theory. Therefore, he himself was not thoroughly convinced that as theories of relativity explained our physical universe or reality in its totality. Many scientists were also out to prove Einstein wrong, one of whom was Tesla. Tesla had already conducted successful experimentation where Einstein was only on the fringes of understanding anti-gravity and antimatter. History has been written depicting that Einstein did not live to complete his work on this theory. I got involved with the project in 1938 and worked closely with Tesla, the government's project director, interviewed by a panel of men, mostly scientists, which included Tesla and some military. I was hired to work with the project primarily because of my abilities and training in physics, geometry and electronics. I was very much involved during the theorem and thorium stages and realized that we were just at the beginning stages of understanding radiation. There were numerous round-table discussions with many individuals from different walks of life and philosophies that were not only from the scientific and military communities, but also from religious and metaphysical societies. We all had our own assignments and timetables, restricting our involvement with other aspects in the development of the technology. Additionally, much of the work was contracted out. It was designed so that the right hand never knew what the left hand was doing and vice versa. All issues were handled in this manner for the sole purpose of secrecy. My role also included the preparation and installation of the technology on the ship. Shortly after being with the project, I was able to distinguish the different motives by the different groups of people involved. The three key agendas that were very much part of this experimentation were: a scientific agenda, which was to explore the time-space continuum for scientific discovery; a military agenda, since we were at war, WW2, they wanted this ability as a weapon, to move personnel and cargo instantaneously from one point to another; and lastly, an extraterrestrial agenda, which was to map out the Earth's planetary magnetic gridwork for interdimensional travel. In 1943, the government conducted a test using domestic animals on a ship. The ship that was eventually used for the experiment, the US Eldridge, was commissioned at the New York Navy Yard on August 27, 1943, Department of the Navy. The animals were placed in metal cages on the US Eldridge. The ship became invisible, but when it materialized, many of the animals were missing on had radiation and other burn marks on them. Humans were not to be tested, yet on August 12, 1943, the US Eldridge with a full crew aboard reportedly underwent the Philadelphia experiment. The men did not know what was to happen. The generators were fired up, the switches were thrown, the ship disappeared and all seemed well. However, others claim that the experiment took place on October 28, 1943. Substantial evidence points to the October date as being more accurate. The Navy has released the Eldridge's deck log and war diary, and at no time was the Eldridge in Philadelphia. However, the records could have easily been changed. The results were disastrous. When activated, the ship generated a green fog and disappeared from Philadelphia, reappearing in Norfolk Harbor 24 hours later. Many of the crew ended up embedded in the walls of the ship. Others became insane. Some were mercifully dispatched with a pistol shot to the head. Here is a written account from one of the few survivors of the 176-man crew. Tesla was a genius of such magnitude that some doubt that he was actually human. Many of Tesla's inventions, like the free energy receiver and the long-range death ray, may have been suppressed to prevent the collapse of the electrical utility, coal and oil industries, or for reasons of national security.